We're not training the appropriate people in the appropriate areas. That is the biggest problem. The third is the quality of the people who are entrusted with the responsibility. And we have to fix all that. The first one, we have to ensure early start education. Here, people start at 6. During my time, there was this policy that we even start at 8. I think it's a fundamental mistake. The children should start early in kindergarten, and they should be taught in literacy and numeracy. And once we have that right, the foundation would be very strong. You take it to the next levels. We have to ensure that there is vocational and technical training in this country. All of us can't be lawyers and doctors. This is what we need. We need painters, we need mechanics, we need builders, we need road builders. These are the kinds of people, technically skilled people and STEM people. That's what we need in order to develop this country. If we don't invest in those, this country would be doomed. We also need quality professionals with good qualifications to teach these things. Otherwise, it will fail.
Mr. Fall, your time is up. Thank you so much. Mr. Salah, under a Doyle-led government, help us understand how you would restructure the country's education sector in a manner that will address the issue of quality and affordable education in the Gambia.
Development is about mindset and knowledge. We do not have the type of system fit for our type of society, independent country that should have attained self-determination. We need self-determined and self-reliant educational system that will build a self-reliant and self-determined people who can ensure that we become independent and totally run our own affairs. That is what is the first fundamental problem. We do not have any direction. And we are going to inject direction in this. And we are going to create an apex institution, an academy of social, natural, science, and humanities, and get the professors to sit down, look at our educational system from the early childhood all the way to the tertiary level. Then we'll build up the system, build up its cadre, build up its material, knowledge material that we should push ourselves. We're not even producing our own books. And we are spending millions importing. That is where we're going to put to an end by creating our own structures. We are saying, first and foremost, education must be free up to the 12th grade. The Constitution now says that education at the basic level must be free, compulsory, and accessible. We must ensure that we'll implement that immediately. From grade 1 to grade 9, there will be free education, and all the institutions will be there. We'll also go...
Right, Mr. Salah, thank you so much. And then, Mr. Fall, I'm coming back to you. It's the rebuttal session. You heard what Mr. Salah had said. If you have any comments, you can do so now.
The solution is not in a study. The solution is to do the obvious. The quality is very poor. We start very late. We are not teaching the things they need to become very productive members of our society. In this country, if you ask for all skilled workers, they are all foreigners. Tailors are foreigners, drivers are foreigners, machinists are foreigners, electricians are foreigners, fit mechanics are foreigners. We need to train Gambian in these things. That's what we need. These are the people who would develop this country. We don't need to carry out any studies to know that there's a big deficit of this type of people in this country. This is what we need. Early start, good education, STEM.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Fall. Mr. Salah, over to you now.
We are supposed to run a government which requires policies, instruments, and programs. You must do study. Get recommendation to implement. That's how government works. Government is not just some hypothetical situation. You just get up and say, this is the problem and this is the solution. That's why they don't have a solution. We are saying for the issue of the educational system up to grade 12, we want it to be free. Grade 1 to 9, immediate. Grade 9 to 12, a study to see how it can be done. When they finish school, 1 year national service to get training in any sector to get a knowledge base. And then the cooperative bank will give you the money to be able to run the business that you want to establish. That's how we want to establish a system.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Salah. I'm staying with you. We are moving on to the next question. This time, not you, Mr. Fall. Mr. Fall, the next question, you have 90 seconds to answer this. And then having listened to what you've said, we want you to help us understand the practical educational strategies a Doyle-led government would design to address the mismatch between educational realities in the country and the job market.
There is a very thin job market. We're saying we must create the job market, not expect to fit people into it. Fundamentally, the nation must take care of its children. Therefore, early childhood up to grade 12, we aim to make it free, accessible, and having all the quality necessary to deliver a Gambian child capable of delivering to the nation. That's what we intend to do. And we are going to also build up, not just ending the education system, which will be basic education, giving you all the characteristics of knowledge of yourself, your internal body, all elements of yourself, your psychology, and eventually the needs of the nation. And also, because you're going to consolidate a democratic society, from those grades you start to learn how to really decide and lead by allowing those students to choose some among themselves to help the teachers to maintain those schools. So they will learn democratic practice through the education system. We are saying it's not only that, but we will give you interest-free loan to be able to run any institution you want to run in order to be able to be productive. So we are going to lead education to productive, not only a market that is there, but so that you can also be self-employed. That's how we intend to build our education system.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Salah. You still have 14 seconds to go if you wish
Yes,
to go
it
ahead.
means that not only are we training them to be productive, which is always what people say, but to love country and people. That is how we're going to end crime and all this discord that is in society. We are going to create a new Gambia through the education system.
Right. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mr. Fal. Your educational strategies that you would design and implement to address the mismatch between the educational training and actual jobs in the country.
This is precisely the point I made earlier. We have to train people in the things that we need to build this country. We need mechanics, we need builders, we need air-conditioned workers, we need plumbers, we need technically skilled people, and that is what is fundamentally lacking in this country. I have been to Dingirai, there is no Gambian plumber. I have been to Basse. Most of the builders are not from Gambia. If you come to Kersering area, most of the builders are Senegalese. Why is that the problem? Because we are not training technically skilled Gambians to build this country. That is what we have to change. Vocational education training for Gambians, that is what we need. We also need to reorganize our education to get it to focus on STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and maths. This is what we need in order to transform this country. Go to the university. The bulk of the students, with the free education that is being talked about, the bulk of the students are studying what? Management, literature, history. We don't need that to develop the country. We need scientists. We need technically skilled people. And to say that they would make the education free, well, they forgot that a lot of the educational institutions in this country are privately owned. I have the statistics here. If you look at the number of...
I'm afraid, Mr. Fal, your time is up, but in fact, I have a follow-up question to that. We will stick to that. We have provision for that. You have 45 seconds to answer that, if you may wish to incorporate what you're about to say in that. You've mentioned the STEM and TVET education system. We want to know, under your government, if you're voted into office, how you would effectively explore this avenue.
Government has to put resources into that. And that is all it takes. There is a lot of wastage in government. We can mop, we can cut that waste and get resources that could be put into that. In fact, government gives about $2.2 million in subsidies every year. Subsidies to institutions that are not performing. That money could have been put into that. Government is also losing $2.5 billion on tax duty waivers. We could have come to be used for other more productive purposes in the economy. We can get a lot of money from those things to invest in a re-engineered education that would help provide the needs of the country.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Mr. Salah. Reactions, comments are open now, if you have any reaction to what Mr. Salah said.
It's very clear that the system we are talking about, each village having a village treasury, being able to invest in education, in health, in infrastructure, and training those people resident in the village to be able to maintain all those services is the answer. To talk about separating science, natural science, social science, is really a misconceiving of what knowledge is. Knowledge is holistic. People must know how to govern themselves. This management of communities is one of the fundamental instruments of ensuring development. So if you do not have good managers in hospitals, in schools, in roads, everywhere there is management. And there.
All right, Mr. Salah, thank you so much. I'm afraid the 45 seconds up. Mr. Fall.
Well, I am a bit surprised. It looks like Mr. Salah is talking about controlled societies. This is it's very Soviet style management. You control things from the center, and you control everything to the minutest detail. That is not what we are about. This is not a communist or a socialist society. This is a capitalist society. Yes, there is a bit of control at the center, but it's not so stringent control that people in the villages are not free to do what they want. But anyway, the issue was centered mainly about education, all right? And for us, a government led by us, we would make sure that we make a lot of savings from government waste and plow it back into education. Instead of making education entirely free, which I think we cannot do simply because a lot of the schools are private and they need to operate on profit basis, government would provide resources needed, maybe through scholarships and so on, to ensure that the right type of education is provided. This is not a country that just needs general knowledge. It's not general knowledge that we are chasing after. We are chasing after technically skilled people who can build this country. We are not looking to have people who just theorize and theorize. We want people who can build this country. That is what we are after.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fall. Over now to Mr. Salah. You have 90 seconds to answer this question. Under a Doyle-led government, how would we perceive accessible and reliable education in the country?
Clearly, we have said there is basic education where you are taught both nature and society to be able to see what is relevant to be able to ensure development. That is basic education. And it includes science and technology. So everybody must have that accessible to them. But at the level of grade 12, then you go into a practical process of being a part of a national service to be able to get training anywhere, and you will be supported by government so that in 1 year you will learn all the skills that you need and then move into the job market. This is what we are talking about. We are saying that the education system at the village level must also be the concern of the villages. The technical part of knowledge will be acquired directly through practice. It means that the village will know all the infrastructure that should be built and involve the villages in that process. So it is very strange that somebody is talking about that is centralization. We are saying area councils are centralized. And they should be decentralized by passing on that treasury to the village so that they can have a village treasury because they have village development committee. The gentleman is talking about centralization. It's not centralization. We are talking about decentralization. I guess they are lost in terms that they have been indoctrinated all these years, and our intelligence here are precisely indoctrinated into...
Mr. Salah, your time is up, but I'm staying with you. You still have 45 seconds. I have a follow-up question as to what you would do to ensure reliable and accessible education in the country that cuts across.
We are saying that the state budget is meant to raise Gambian children. Nothing more is more important than education. We will invest in it to ensure that it is free up to the grade 12 and will give you knowledge of science and knowledge of society so that you develop to be a holistic thinker who can actually serve in management, in hospitals, in any area of life, because there must be a division of labor in society that will address our needs and aspirations. We must prepare all our people for that division in labor based on their choice. We are hearing indoctrination from our gentlemen. I think they are lost now.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Sala. And then the initial question was, I had a follow-up. The initial question was, what would a government on their watch do to ensure reliable and accessible education in the country?
Sorry. I have said that we should ensure that we have the kind of education that this country needs for its development. We don't need theoreticians, we don't need historians, we don't need people with long qualifications in literature and so forth. What we need are technically skilled people to build this country. I'm not saying that all those courses are irrelevant. No, I am saying that our focus to develop this country should be on those technical skills. And a government led by me would put all the resources necessary to train Gambians in those skills so that those technical jobs would be done here by Gambians.
All right. Mr. Sala, any reaction?
It is important to see the type of mentality that is developing in the continent, which has moved us backwards. Essentially, the human being has aesthetic values, must also be scientific in order to work to scientific problems, must also have knowledge of management so that society will be managed on a democratic basis. I started by saying you can even educate the children to participate in democracy so that they can elect their leaders in the class based on the qualities that are necessary for a leader. So from a very early age, you are nurturing democracy. The type of system they're talking about is a system where there is no value, there is no direction, and we're going to put that to an end. We entirely want a society that is holistic and organized, and our educational system will be designed to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Fall, finally, reactions?
The thing is, I am sometimes at a loss. The ideas that I hear are, yes, strange to me. Perhaps, yes, one could say that we are brainwashed in Western ways. I could equally say that maybe my senior, Honorable Sala, is brainwashed in Soviet ways, in socialist ways. And that is why he's coming up with all these ideas. Ideas that are so socialist in their nature that they could hardly work in this country. For all intents and purposes, this is a capitalist society.
All right, gentlemen, that brings it into this second thematic area. And in fact, it's taking us to a break. We'll take a quick break, and like we said earlier, if you so wish to sit, you can do so. When we come back, we'll continue to debate. Just stay tuned.
sama waaj nag yaa ngi bëgg a yàgg ci dëkk bi sa holiday yi gudd na lool sax vacances yi yàgg na waaye dama ne naa ñibbisi ci sama réew investir wax nga dëgg sa saafara man maa ko yor jógal ñu dem topp ma cey sama waaj da ngaa bëri pexe de topp ma
xam ngeen Gambia léegi dafa open loolu moo waral global properties jóg jaay la kër doo manqué courant doo manqué ndox da ngay am pôle maanaam piscine sa disposition di nga am budget bi sécurité 24 hours te soo bëggee investir aussi nga mën a investir sa réew jënd kër di ko nuyu hôtel yi nga xam baax na waaye nag am na.
If you want to receive monies from UK, Europe, USA, Canada, Switzerland, and the rest of the world, Supersonic's money transfer has got you covered. With the largest payout network in the Gambia, you can now receive your monies anywhere you are, from Kartong to Koina, with less hassle. Yes! You can receive monies from your family and friends in UK, Europe, USA, Canada, Switzerland, and the rest of the world with our safe, secure, fast, and convenient service that offers you the largest selection of payout locations in the Gambia. Supersonic's money transfer. We are currently in 34 African countries and counting, giving you quality money remittance services that are second to none. Visit the Google Play Store or the Apple Store today to download the Supersonics Money Transfer app and enjoy excellent money transfer services only with Supersonics.
DK Telecom.
Cey Africa billaay ñun ñoo metti den dee toog la gëmloo suñ boppa dara te kenn mënut laa wax fu mu jógee ñu bari ñu ne pengu coronavirus bi dafay tax ba doo mën a am doom te amuñ ci benn firme kon fexe leen ngeen dem pengu ji pour aar seen boppa ak askan bi fagarlu moo gan fajoo yaay mooy li ñuy aar leen ñu jëli ko vaccine bi ñu doon xaar
And Twitter at DK Telecom Limited. DK Telecom is proud to be associated with the presidential debate as the official internet service provider.
Vaccine, vaccine, vaccine. Don't get vaccinated before it's too late.
You know, I want to encourage the community members. I think I actually also say this almost every Friday and Juma Salah that I'll make a sign announcement. And actually, I will give myself as an example, and I'll stand there and say, you know what? I know there are a lot of misconception and misinformation out there about the vaccines, but I can attest to you that me standing here, I am fully vaccinated, and it's been since February when I got my second dose, and I'm still standing and alive and kicking and with no problems. So the vaccine is safe, and it saves life. And like the saying goes, and I heard you say that, you know, no one is safe until we are all safe, something like that, right? And I urge and implore the community members, everybody, if you are not vaccinated, please get vaccinated. You know, bring your kids, your family members from 8-12, onwards, get vaccinated. I make sure in my household we are all fully vaccinated. Everybody is vaccinated. And we're still all around without any issues. So the vaccine is safe, and it saves lives.
Vaccine, vaccine, vaccine. Don't get vaccinated before.
La COVID-19 est toujours là, elle avait reculé pour mieux sauter.
Citoyens, avant de pouvoir recevoir le vaccin
est là pour nous sauver.
Vous n'avez pas besoin de montrer votre citoyenneté ou votre statut d'immigrant. Pour vous faire vacciner, on vous a peut-être demandé de fournir une carte d'identité, mais vous n'êtes pas obligé de la fournir si vous ne l'avez pas.
Il est là pour nous protéger.
Si vous ne l'avez pas, la seule règle est d'avoir 12 ans ou plus.
Le vaccin est là pour nous sauver. Il est là pour nous.
Mante iwarni kan anyilati mofam pour minga pikireti coronavirus. Wafu sentimati uwaranu kan anyilati amofam bungol nga pikireti coronavirus. Pikireti coronavirus kan wanu manje anu sana manje ndugo ba simisone unyen disigaba wonu pour munu jonga pikireti coronavirus. Anu sana jogoro yoke ngare bengo. Yanku pour mbeja ngare pikireti coronavirus. Pangu chengi wankone national identity card wonu pour munu jonga ama pikireti coronavirus kantu mati wonu yisen kayit kasi kayit mati aw anyilati mofam mungol du ba am kayit pikireti coronavirus. Corona idare anu sana jogoro nanu baje ama simitari nga unyen disigaba pour ngonu pour munu jonga pikireti coronavirus bodo kantu mati wu kantu ja anyina si mofam mati ama esukay danombi la tungol nga pikireti coronavirus. Coronavirus mutabala le patio mutinya yo kangare pengo.
waaw mbokk yi di leen jaajëfal bu baax a baax si topp bi ngeen a topp Gambian Talents TV saa su ne nii rek la moo demee ñu leen a indil nag lu leen kenn indilut fu mu nekk nii presidential debate leen wax presidential debate bu am solo presidential debate boo xam ne nag leaders yi ñoo waroon a toog maanaam ñoom six ñi nga xam ne ñoom ñooy taxaw ku nekk li nga xam ne moo nekk président waaye jamono ji nag gis neen loo xam ne moo fi xew six candidate ki nga xam ne mooy Abdoulaye Jammeh mu am tamit ki nga xam ne moo nekk honorable Sala ki nga xam ne tamit moo nekk Essa Faal ki nga xam ne moo nekk président Adama Barrow current président bi ak tamit ki nga xam ne moo nekk lawyer Ousainou Darboe ak tamit ki nga xam ne moo nekk Mama Kandeh ñoom ñëpp ñoo waroon a génn ñëw waxtaan ak li nga xam ne moo nekk askan bi but unfortunately ñoom foo yooyu yëpp ñëw ñaar rek moo ñëw lii daf ñoo wanal ne dëkk buñ am dëkk boobu noonu dafa des Gambia we have a long way to go waaye ba léegi rek ma bàyyi awa mu nuyoo askan bi wax tuuti rek si French den su ko defee ñu ñëw ini waxtaan bi.
Bonsoir, chers téléspectateurs qui regardent la Gambian Talents TV. Nous sommes là ce soir aux conférences Sadauda Kairaba Jawara pour assister le débat politique entre les candidats nommés pour l'élection présidentielle. Pour l'élection présidentielle qui aura lieu le 4 Bonsoir, chers téléspectateurs qui regardent la Gambia Talents TV. Nous sommes là ce soir au centre de conférence Sadauda Kairaba Jawara pour assister le débat politique entre les candidats nominés pour l'élection qui aura lieu le 4 décembre 2021. On a vu qu'il n'y a que deux candidats qui sont là au présent, Essa Faal et Khalifa Sallah. Le président Adama Barrow n'est pas au présent. Docteur Ismaël, plutôt que Abdoulaye Ibrahima Jammeh n'est pas au présent. Peut-être qu'ils sont en train de faire leur campagne. Mbokk yi comme ni ngeen ko gisee rek ñu teewal leen fi nga xamante ne moo di si centre de conférence Sadauda Kairaba Jawara pour won leen li nga xam ne mooy débat bi nga xamante ne ñi nga xam ne ñoo war a dem si élection bi ñoo ko war a amal tey ñu gis na nag juróom benn candidat lañ jotoon a tànn si ñaar fukk ak ñett président Adama Barrow ki nga xamante ne moo di Mama Kandeh ñu am Abdoulaye Jammeh am Essa Faal am ki nga xam ne moo di Khalifa Sall tey nag moom ñaar rek lañ gis moo di Essa Faal ak ki nga xam ne mooy Khalifa Sall ñoo jot a teew Adama jox Fatou moom tam mu sànni si kàddu tuuti.
waaw jërëjëf awa French bi neex na lool su ko defee rek xam naa du ñàkk bintu ñu ngi break te am na ñoo xam ne ñu ngi dégg mandinka du weesu ne ñoom it dinañ bugg a dégg lan moo fi xew ba dinañ ñëw ñu analyse leen ko wax naa leen télé yi bari nañ si dëkk bi waaye bokk ñu Gambian Talents TV la bintu right now it is disappointing ku gis out of 6 candidates nga gis only ñaari candidate ñu ñëw ndax ñaar yooyu rek a jànga moo tax gaay ñëw ndax ñaar yooyu rek a xam moo tax gaay ñëw naka la fa demee dineen bëgg a askan bi xam loolu waaye bintu dafa mel ni da ngaa jëlal advert parce que gars yi génn neen jeexal neen break bi ñu dem ñëwaat du ay
La Covid-19 est toujours là et la vérité qu'il est pour mieux sauter.
Citoyens, avant de pouvoir recevoir le vaccin
est là pour nous sauver.
Vous n'avez pas besoin de montrer votre citoyenneté ou votre statut d'immigrant. Pour vous faire vacciner, on vous a peut-être demandé de fournir une carte d'identité, mais vous n'êtes pas obligé de la fournir si vous ne l'avez pas.
Il est là pour nous protéger.
Si vous ne l'avez pas, la seule règle est d'avoir 12 ans ou plus.
Le vaccin est là pour nous sauver. Il est là pour nous protéger. Prenons le vaccin, c'est le seul remède du moment. Évitons les regroupements et portons nos masques.
That money should have been used for the development of the provinces. But the approach taken by my Uncle here, Honorable Salah, would not work. To develop our infrastructure, we have to be very serious and map out this country and strategically identify those roads that would connect places to places. I agree, rejuvenation of river transport is essential, but we have to make sure that we have a network that ensures efficiency and effective distribution of goods and services and free movement of the people. That's what we need.
Thank you, Mr. Fall. We now go into rebuttals. Come back to you, Mr. Salah. 45 seconds.
We need good roads, we need wharfs, we also need an airport in Basse that will enable to cover our sub-region. We need to connect the ports, the development of the bridge with a port facility so that we'll be able to serve southern Senegal. We need to build an economy. We're not talking about sharing pittance. We are saying, look at what is happening. The type of people he's talking about will come and establish banana plantation, taken from our people. We are saying this sovereign wealth fund and the bank will be able to help a village to be able to have banana plantation, produce, and put it in their village treasury for their village development. So they will develop and build a capital base of self-reliance so that they will continue to provide infrastructure.
Your time is up, please, sir. Mr. Fall?
It strikes me as if my senior is averse to foreign direct investment because the banana plantations we're talking about are a direct result of foreign direct investment, and that is something we must encourage. That is not to say that we should not encourage our people to also make such big investments. This is what capitalism is all about. It should not be all about the local people owning everything. That is protectionism. That is against the modern thinking in the world. That is against modern methods of economic development. And if we are to propose and advocate for such ideas in this country would starve, because a lot of the things that bring development to this country are monies from abroad.
Thank you, Mr. Fall. We now move to the next question, still on infrastructure, and we are going to start with you, Mr. Fall. We, in this country, have high penetration rate for mobile phone usage, but the internet penetration is quite low. How would you transform the digital infrastructure of the country to ensure or to promote issues of e-commerce in particular? You have 90 seconds, please.
You've taken 3 seconds of it already.
You can have it back.
Just a joke. This country embraced internet so massively. Everywhere you go in this country, people are using WhatsApp. And that is very important. The problem is that the service is rather poor in some areas. And these companies should be encouraged to invest more, to plow back their resources into improving their networks. And that can be done through PURA, because PURA establishes the conditions through which they operate. PURA can insist that a particular percentage of the revenues generated by these ICTs could be plowed back into the business and ensure that loopholes are covered and innovations in this sector can be brought into this country. That is how you develop it. Because the thing is, government cannot take its money and invest it in this, except for us, maybe Gamtel, which if I were to be head of state, we would privatize that company because it's not doing well. Government is not very good at doing business, but it can establish an environment for businesses to strive. That is what we should do, to level the playing field, put in place conditions that would make these businesses to invest money into the sector. That is how the sector would improve.
Your time is up. Thank you, sir. Mr. Salah, digital infrastructure.
I think you already understand that we invested $25 million to improve the infrastructure. Now it's simply the usage, the connection, the connectivity, which of course can be improved and developed. And we have a regulatory authority that should ensure that. So we're going to ensure that the regulatory authority does what it's supposed to do for delivery to be up to standard. It's simple as that. We have a magnificent infrastructure, modern infrastructure, but poor service delivery. We'll put that to an end. We must also bear in mind that internet use, we are saying in all communities, there must be a center for internet use provided by the community. And in that sense, all the Gambian people will be connected to the internet. That's what we are calling for. Essentially, what is important, as my colleague usually say, that the village cannot be given everything, the people should not be given everything, we should not have a people-centered government. I don't know what type of centered government the colleague is talking about. Is he talking about a money-centered government? Who owns the money? Is he going to run a state through taxation, grants, and loans? That's what the Gambian state is living on today. We're saying build sovereign national wealth. He's saying sacrifice all your state companies and enterprises.
Your time is up, please, sir. Thank you. Rebuttals, Mr. Fall, you have 45 seconds, please, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm not talking about being averse to people-centered government. Government should be about people. The government should be for people, and government should be by the people. That is what I believe in. It's a fundamental principle that I live by. But what I am saying here is, we should not, in Gambia, embrace those socialist policies that would divide us into silos, and we think that that would develop this country. No, that would not develop our country. What we need is proper planning and adequate resourcing of places that are far off that need funds.
Your time is up, sir. Mr. Salah, your rebuttal, please, in 45 seconds.
We are saying in our policy that government has no business in hotels. Over 400 million was invested in Ocean Bay. What business does government have in owning a hotel? That's what we are talking about. Those things should go to the private sector. Some areas is competition with the private sector to be able to render services to the people. He's talking about Gamtel. How can government cede that to any private sector? Instead, there should be public-private partnership to put Gambia forward, move towards Senegal, move towards continental Africa. That's what we're talking about. We are saying even the Sovereign Wealth Fund will include serious Gambian investors who are ready to move beyond Gambia.
Your time is up, please, sir. Thank you. The third and final question for this particular topic, we will now start with you, Mr. Salah, and we will talk about the energy infrastructure. What improvements will you make, if elected, to ensure there is improved access, but also to ensure sustainability given the high dependence on imported heavy fuel? You have 90 seconds, please, sir.
You have energy for public consumption, energy for industrial consumption, energy for services. You can, in the interim, maintain energy for industrial production and services at the planning of using heavy fuel. But for investment for public consumption must be renewable energy. You should exploit solar and wind energy to be able to provide every home with electricity. It's doable, we can do it. And that energy will be cheap, affordable to the people. That is how we have strategized energy production and energy use. So essentially then, the network we have now is doing what it is not supposed to do, providing energy services to the population by relying on heavy energy. That's why it is expensive and people cannot afford it. At the same time, the industrial production is inconsistent and is also expensive. So it is counterproductive in terms of profitability. For the services, it's the same. You see that you have all these internet services, and sometimes even having connection is a problem, and sometimes even maintaining charges is a problem. So currently, there is no energy policy that is serving the country either from the angle of industry, services, or the level of the population.
A quick follow-up there, since you talked about NAWEC, probably we should also talk about the water infrastructure, because a high percentage of source of water in the country is said to be contaminated. You have thousands or tens of thousands of people that do not have access to clean water. I mean, what will you do in this area in terms of improving the water infrastructure? And Mr. Fall, you may note this. You can also address this follow-up, please. Please, Mr. Sala.
It is
45 seconds you have.
It is important to take note of two categories of population that we must address: the rural, peri-urban, rural, as well as the urban area, which is the area that you are talking about now, that really the water production is not sufficient for the population. It is difficult for people to have access. It is also dangerous under certain circumstances because of contamination. So in that regard, we are going to address those three elements. First, accessibility. We must ensure that each village has a village treasury, each ward has a village ward treasury, and they should ensure that water is provided to the village. We must ensure, and the ward. We must ensure also that...
Thank you. Mr. Fall, over to you now. The energy infrastructure. What will you do to ensure improved access and sustainability?
I am again surprised at the socialist approach to this particular issue. The dichotomy, artificial dichotomy between public consumption and industrial consumption, I think it is so artificial, for the simple reason that we do not simply have enough energy. We therefore do not have the luxury to try to compartmentalize which bit should be heavy fuel and which bit should be renewable energy. We simply do not have that luxury because we do not have enough. My energy policy would be to ensure that we have as much energy as possible, create a diaspora bond of $1 billion, which Gambians in the diaspora would invest in to create a company that would invest $1 billion on solar energy and other renewable energy. That would be in addition to what we have. We now have to make sure that we have enough energy to run this country and not to compartmentalize the little we have that would lead for greater deficit. We would ensure that we invest also in the grid that we have, because a lot of it is almost too old to transmit all the energy that we produce. That is the biggest problem why we have this energy deficit in this country.
Your time is up, but if you wish to address the issue of water infrastructure, a follow-up to Mr. Salas, you may please do so. 45 seconds.
Yes, thank you very much. Water is a big problem in this country, and it shouldn't be. The government is spending millions and millions buying pickup trucks, perambulating around the country looking for votes. When those pickups could have been, instead of buying pickups, we could have bought machines that will drill boreholes for a lot of these communities out there. The problem is a simple one. Are we investing in water for the local communities that could not afford it? We are not. If government were to invest, say, buy 5 drilling machines for each region, we would have solved the problem. And I know water could be an issue in the future, but...
Your time is up, please, sir.
Thank you.
We now go into rebuttals. Mr. Sala, you have 45 seconds, please.
I'll start where he ended. So where will the money come from to provide all that drilling for the population? That's what we are saying. He is coming back to the argument. There are people who cannot afford, and you cannot allow them to die. We're saying create a system, create equalization grants, provide each village, each ward with the funds necessary for project implementation. That's what they are saying. You calculate all this, you raise the resources, you push to build up a more productive base in order to have the sovereign wealth to be able to help the communities. That's what we are saying. In terms of energy also, how will people afford the energy by building a $1 billion company?
Your time is up, please, sir. Thank you. Mr. Fall, over to you. Your rebuttal, 45 seconds, please, sir.
We have a lot of similar policies, but the twist and the angle is different. His is from the years. I mean, with all due respect, I'm not saying that to create fun. I am making.
It's fun. In fact, they should laugh. Everybody should laugh.
No. I am not doing that. All I'm saying is the angle is different. His is socialist, mine is capitalist. And there is, it's just like Nokia 310 and iPhone 13 Pro.
Mr. Fall, your time is up. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Salah. Can we have some order in the hall, please? One of the rules is that there should be no such thing, really. Mr. Salah, thank you. Mr. Fall, thank you for answering the questions. I will now hand over to my co-moderator to take us through the next session.
The fourth thematic area is health. And I'm starting with you, Mr. Fall. You have 90 seconds to answer this question. And that is to say, the type of healthcare system the electorate yearn for is one that is reliable, accessible, timely, and affordable. We want to know, under a government led by you, what you would do to institute strategies that would replace or enhance the current health system in a manner that would cover every Gambian in a more comprehensive and integrated manner.
The health sector in this country is practically dead or non-existent. What we have of hospitals are, in fact, hospices where people go to die. And this must change. Women die because there are no gloves. Women die because there's no blood. Women die because power failure. Women die because there are no doctors. Women die because there are no medicine. Growing up, Senegal used to come here for medical help. Now it's the reverse. We have to change that. In order to change that, we have to have massive investment in the health sector. And the investment has to be in the infrastructure, in the personnel, and the healthcare givers. All three segments, we need massive investments in it. I will make sure that we revamp the health sector in several ways. And we can get the money if we are serious about it. You see, there is so much pork that the government is dishing out on a daily basis. $2.5 billion is going on duty-free. They're not going to the poor person in Dingirai or to the village market in Mansajang. They are going to well-able Gambians who are rich. We have to cut that and invest that money into the healthcare sector. The insurance that we have is not an insurance that covers the people. We should have a national health insurance system that covers everybody.
All right. We are staying with that. Mr. Salah, I'll come back to you. It's a follow-up. You have 45 seconds to answer this, Mr. Fall. We are still interested in how you would implement this, how you would revamp the health sector of the country, some of the strategies you would implement to the latter.
It's all a function of good leadership, proper management, and resources. The resources are there. Even if you cut all the waste that is going on in government, you would have a lot of money that could be put on this. In fact, we have $2.2 billion that is going to subsidize institutions that exist only to pay salaries to themselves. And if we cut all those things, $5 billion would be available. You cut the money going to president's office by $500 million. You have $5-point-something billion available that could help to fund some of these programs, including the health sector. And with insurance, more money would be available. So this is doable.
All right. Mr. Salah, thank you so much. Over now to you. Mr. Fall, I beg your pardon. Over now to you, Mr. Salah. And then under a Doyle-led government, we want to know what strategies you would institute that would replace or enhance the current healthcare system, one that comprehensively in an integrated manner, and one that would ensure reliable, accessible, affordable, and timely healthcare service delivery in the country?
Well, health has 4 components: preventive, curative, rehabilitative, and restorative. You see people suffer burns. You need to help them restore their skin. It's absence in the Gambia. We'll ensure that that happens. Accidents, we'll ensure that that happens. That's a principal target. You look at rehabilitative, you see people not having wheelchairs, not having mobility aids, completely abandoned. They cannot even do their work. So we will ensure that there is a proper rehabilitation facilities to be able to facilitate those people, accompanying them to proper health. You have the curative dimension. We're saying it should be community centered. There should be a primary stage, a secondary stage, and tertiary stage. Primary stage involves the village. We should ensure that the villages themselves are trained to be proper bath attendants, and it is, etc. You'll be able to test it and save lives very quickly. But then at the village level, you can move to the district level where you have a major health center or a district hospital that will be treating other issues, and will staff the place with the appropriate doctors and nurses to be able to render services. We also have the regional hospitals, which will be referral hospitals. That's how we intend to structure the health system.
All right, Mr. Salah, I'm staying with you. It's a follow-up question. You have 45 seconds still to answer this. We want to look at the issue of affordable healthcare service in the country and that of accessible healthcare service in the country. We want you to help us understand how a Doyle-led government would deal with this situation.
People pay taxes to be able to get services. People can produce to be able to get services. We are saying at the preventive level, the educational system in the schools should identify the major health problems in the country and educate our young people to exercise, to prevent those things that are preventable in terms of the health and illnesses that we suffer today. We will also introduce the concept of the community participating in at least dealing with its little health problems by ensuring that the community will be able to identify the illnesses that appear within a year to the epidemiological units to know which illnesses appear in a village, in a district, in a region. Therefore, the drugs that will be bought will be given drugs.
Mr. Salah, thank you so much. Over now to Mr. Fowle. Reactions to Mr. Salah's comments.
I think that we have to be serious about healthcare and bring insurance that would cover everybody in this country. If we don't do that, we would never have all the resources necessary to pay for our health. Otherwise, it would be hospitals that we have around the country where they dish out paracetamol for almost every ailment. We have to invest in the infrastructure. There are not enough hospital beds. We have to invest in medication. We have to invest in caregivers. We have to invest in doctors. There is no reason why all the Gambian doctors working abroad cannot assist us through video conference consultations and all that. So there is a lot we can do.
Your time is up, I'm afraid. Over now to Mr. Salah.
Health technology is fundamental. That's why many people live here to go to Senegal. We must ensure that that comes to an end by identifying what we need and prioritize in accessing them to the country. It is also significant to bear in mind that already we have passed a bill. I'm a member of the National Assembly to help establish the health insurance scheme. So that is nothing new. So it is already institutionalized. And my friend is constantly mentioning communism, socialism. I don't understand why the colleague continues to do this. Because we have a state, and the state is a centralized state based on a constitution, and nobody comes and overthrow that constitution.
All right.
So how can you talk about communism?
Time is up, I'm afraid. We will leave it there. We have another question, and starting with you, Mr. Salah. we want to look at the regulatory health policies that the Adoy-led government would design and implement to ensure a standardized health sector in the country.
Every service must deliver according to standard. And if you want quality, there must be a regulatory authority that supervises service delivery. We are saying in all sectors of society, all government departments, all areas of infrastructural development and public enterprises, there must be a regulatory authority that will annually present report to the executive and to parliament to show whether those institutions established are delivering services according to purpose, that they are accessible, affordable, and ensuring quality. That's what we intend to ensure. That comes to institution building. And we are talking about a government. So the government is designed to establish institutions, and those institutions are designed to deliver service because according to Section 26 of the Constitution, every Gambian is entitled to public service. And those who are restricting access to public service should not manage government because they will be violating the Constitution of the Republic. It says on the Section 26, all services should be accessible equally to all Gambians. And we will ensure that that happens, and we will ensure that it is of quality by ensuring this regulatory authority where people can lodge complaint, and we will monitor them at the level of the executive and national assembly to see that they are functioning according to purpose.
And so, Mr. Sara, I'm staying with that part, that is the regulatory authority. We've seen laws being enacted, we've seen regulatory bodies in place, but still the implementation part remains a challenge. We are focused on the health sector now. We want to know what extra miles a Doyle-led government would do to ensure that laws and regulatory measures in the health sector are upheld.
So with immediacy, the executive will look at its own laws and ensure that the money provided for the rendering of services is delivered according to the purpose, and will be very blunt with a regulatory authority that is established to ensure that that budget is implemented to be able to render proper services. Of course, it will be inadequate. So we will look at the inadequacy based on resource generation. So resource reallocation as well as resource generation will be utilized to be able to bridge the gap. Yes, bridge the gap. So that's what we intend to do.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Sala. And just a quick reminder to you and Mr. Fal, there is a timer here you can see. You could equally be shifting your attention to it so that we don't cut you unexpectedly. The same question, the initial question, you have 90 seconds to answer this. We want to know the health regulatory policies you would put in place to ensure a standardized health sector.
I would break it down to my senior, Honorable Sala, that in fact there is a regulatory authority. There is the Medical and Dental Association, which has the responsibility to ensure quality delivery of medical services in this country. There is a bit of a lacuna that is not controlled, and that is the traditional practitioners. I have seen a recent document on the issue of treatment for HIV/AIDS, in which an effort was made to also regulate trade practitioners who are engaged in HIV/AIDS treatment. That is not enough. We need a more robust regime for that. But really, for the purposes of medical practices, that is already regulated. What we should be talking about is to ensure more robust enforcement of the rules. If you go to the provinces, there are a lot of charlatans and quacks portraying themselves as doctors and selling medicine, and nobody is doing anything about it. That is the bit that needs to be attacked and dealt with. Also, the traditional practitioners who think that they have panaceas and can cure all sorts of diseases, maybe including death, these are the people we have to deal with to ensure that what happened in the Gambia from State House would not happen again. People being given poison in the name of drugs.
And so, Mr. Sala, Mr. Falam, staying with that, I beg your pardon, and that is the issue of addressing the lapses that exist in the regulatory health policies. How would you address this, and how would you ensure that these policies that are in place, these regulatory bodies, deliver up to expectation?
I think the problem is not with the existence or lack thereof of regulatory bodies. It's a question of how do we plug that donut? How do we plug that hole dealing with traditional practitioners? The official system does not understand the traditional practice very well. We have examples in Senegal where they are embraced. Traditional practitioners are embraced and they're making efforts to bring them into the mainstream. That is what we have to do. We have to have an office that would deal specifically with that. And it has to be staffed with people who understand both worlds. Otherwise, there would be disaster.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Fall. Over now to you, Mr. Sala, for your rebuttals.
We are saying that a new government must know the nature and characteristics of the system it is inherited. First and foremost, we'll create a commission that within 3 months, it will be able to identify all the gaps and make recommendations how to address them. And every recommendation given will be implemented, including our own conception of how to address the problem. We are talking about the second element he was mentioning, traditional medicine. To me, there is no traditional medicine. In fact, that is derogatory. Medicine is medicine. Why do we allow other people to call it tradition? Medical science is medical science. Anybody who has the knowledge. So all we need to do is to identify those who are really curing
Mr.
people.
Sala, your time is up, I'm afraid. We will leave it there. Mr. Fall, your reactions, please.
I am really surprised and clearly astonished that Mr. Sala would suggest that there should not be any separation. In medical practice, there are standards and institutions that are responsible for ensuring that all sorts of treatment work and that they passed certain rules. In the traditional practice, there is no such thing. Obviously, there has to be separation. If we do not have a separation, then woe betide us. There would be so much calamity in this country, we would know what hit us. If we did not do that, then what happened in 2007 until 2017, when Jammeh claimed he could cure HIV/AIDS, would recur again, and we can do nothing to stop it.
All right, Mr. Fall, thank you so much. And we have a final question that will stay with you.
No rebuttal.
I beg your pardon?
No.
I'm afraid.
No. Mr. Salah has had his rebuttal. Well, he's gone twice. He's gone twice.
All right. We will leave it there. I'm aware of that. And then we are moving to an original question. I'm staying with you. I saw his hand up, and I must have to listen to him and see what he had to say.
Now I am following the time.
That's well noted. All right. So the final question, Mr. Fall. We want to know what the country's healthcare system will look like under your government.
All Gambians would have access to medical health services and quality medical health services for that matter. Every region in this country would have 2 referral hospitals, and they would have clinics dotted here and there around the country depending on population center. And believe me, we can do it. We've spent almost $1 billion by this executive in a re-election bid. That money could have been used to build $110 million hospitals or clinics around the country. So it is misplaced priority. In a government that I lead, we would put the money where it must go. It must go to the health care of the people. We would build hospitals that are fit for purpose and not hospices. We would ensure that there are adequate medical doctors who would take care of the people. There is a lot of internet now in the country and abroad and in the provinces. Gambian doctors practicing abroad could also help by providing virtual consultations and would be able to help advance our medical service delivery in this country. We can do it only if we put our priorities where they should be. If we invest the money in it and we ensure that there is insurance that covers everybody and not just a handful of people, there should be enough money in the system to help us do it.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Fall. Over now to you, Mr. Sala. How will the country's health sector look like under your government?
Well, health education will be given a priority. We'll make sure that there is negotiation with the MRC to be able to build an institution for tropical medicine, and it will be let's say, a working hospital. And that institution should be able to help build the other institutions in terms of educating nurses and doctors at a very high level. That is a priority. We also need to build up an infrastructure where we'll be able to do much investigation, much research, to be able to produce some of the drugs that we need to cure our people. So we'll be able to mobilize Gambians of competence to work in that area so that we'll be able to facilitate that. We'll give priority to assuming the technology that is necessary to be able to do the testing that we do in other countries. But primarily also, we'll have a primary, secondary, and tertiary phase of health, where each village will be able to have a mental health center, each district, a district hospital, each region, regional hospital, and they'll be responsible for serving. But we will ensure that education, health education, takes place in the school system, in the villages, everywhere, to ensure that we have preventive health and move into a very efficient curative health system, into a rehabilitative one and restoration one. That's what people should expect from us.
Thank you. Over now to you, Mr. Fall. 45 seconds, I beg your pardon, for reactions.
Well, I don't think it is realistic to have a health center for every village in this country. I doubt whether there are hundreds of villages in this country. We simply cannot afford it. What we need to do is to have an efficient system for delivery of quality health services around the country. We should have a good network of ambulances that would ensure that people are ferried, are driven to the various health centers. But to suggest that a health center for every village, I think that is promising too much that anyone can possibly deliver under this situation, especially in a socialized healthcare system suggested by Mr. Salah. Right. It would not work.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fall. Mr. Salah, your reactions, please.
Well, it is very clear that what I have said is that there will be a minor health center in every village, and we'll have a major health center in the bigger villages, a district hospital in all districts, regional hospitals in all regions. That's what we have said. I don't know why he's saying that that's not workable. Then he wants to exclude our population from health delivery. Then what type of president are you going to be? Nobody should be excluded, that is what he said. Everybody, that's it. The colleague is a prominent lawyer. Section 26 of the Constitution said that there must be equal access to all services by the population. How can you exclude anyone?
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Salah. And then I'm coming back to Mr. Fall. 90 seconds. We just want to deal with one important aspect that is of immense interest to the electorate, and that is how to ensure timely response to health emergencies in the country. How would your government tackle this issue?
Well, I think I have seen the reason why socialism has failed in many countries around the world, because they chew too much. They try to chew too much, and it can't work. In a system led by us, we would ensure that there are hospitals, enough hospitals dotted around the country. But we would also ensure that people in the villages would have access to these hospitals. To suggest that one can build a medical facility for every village in this country is just a fanciful dream, in my view. It cannot happen. We don't have those resources. And it's absolutely unnecessary. What we can have is a system of collecting sick people and taking them to hospitals. And that we can do with a good network of ambulances. Once that is available, the problem would be solved. But to suggest that one would build, in fact, if you build the health infrastructure in those villages, you would not have the doctors. No wonder. I went to Kuntawur the other day. There was this hospital. There were no doctors. All they could have is nurses. And that is a common feature in this country. We have to be realistic. We have to operate with pragmatism and not with dogmatism or idealism. We have to ensure that we do things properly, we have to cut our coat according to our size. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you so much, Mr. Fall. Over now to you, Mr. Salah, the same question.
Since my colleague preferred to be unfair, I will not save him. This my colleague prosecuted me in 1994 whilst I was struggling against a coup. They said I violated decree number 4, which banned all political parties from issuing any political statement. I am what? The dictator, believing in centralized power. I've said it and he's heard it, that this is a country with a constitution. And nobody can become president and violate that constitution. There is a judiciary. So how can you bring any system in this country other than the system of the republic? What we are debating is on policies. Since it cannot deal with the policies, it goes into that common saying that people who have no ideas, who are bankrupt of ideas, usually do, they are communists. What is a communist? Where has communism exist? Communism is a country without a state. It's a stateless country that has never existed in this world. So when you talk about Soviet Union, it's a government. Look at our manifesto. We're talking about monarchs establish what you call systems that coerce people. And we are going to eliminate that state and create the cooperative state.
All right, Mr. Salam, sticking to my earlier mentioned question, how you would ensure, a Doyle-led government would ensure timely response to health emergencies across the country. It is a cause for concern.
Well, thank you very much. That is the key issue. We are saying each village should have a health center. Who can say that you cannot train? We have already trained traditional bath attendants. Who cannot train those attendants so that the death that we are suffering in the villages from women being pregnant and not being able to deliver, who says that cannot be done? Who can say that you can train people in the use of all those things where you can test hypertension and diabetes and help manage it until the person can get to a hospital? We are saying force aid hospitals in the village. You go to, and if there are bigger hospitals, if there are bigger villages, then it should be a major one. So bigger infrastructure, more people trained.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salah. Over now to you, Mr. Fall, for your reactions.
I am surprised at the personal attack on me by my senior, Mr. Salah. Maybe he misunderstands the role of a prosecutor with the role of a clerk. When Mr. Salah was prosecuted, I had just graduated from law school. I had just come to the country. I was not a lawyer. I was just holding a briefcase for the lawyers in the office. But I'm happy that Mr. Salah mistook me for the prosecutor. Maybe I must have dressed very well on that occasion. But
all right, you just have 4 seconds to go.
Yeah, let me leave it at that. Some things are better not answered.
All right, thank you so much. And I'm starting with you again, Mr. Salah. The issue of capacity building in terms of training healthcare personnel in the country and equipping them with the requisite skills and knowledge is also dominating the discourse in the country. What would a Doyle-led government do to address this gap?
We have seen the effort that was made to try to address the gap in terms of teachers by having in-service training and helping those people at least to have basic service delivery so that they'll be able to render services at different levels. And we build up the system, the structure, so that more doctors will be needed at the district level and then more doctors at the regional level. But you would have those who can manage the illness. It is managing the illness so that it will not get worse. If you go up country now, the people will tell you, we put our pregnant women on horse carts, on donkey carts, before we arrive at Bansang, that major referral hospital, the person is dead. How do you address that? So this is what we are saying, that you must have an infrastructure suited for each level and train those people to be able to address them. And you can do so through in-service initially, as you really train those who are going to be specialized. That is how we are going to address it. We are going to study not only that, we have said that we must maintain a record of the major illnesses that are found in the villages so that in buying drugs, we will be specialized on handling those major illnesses. So everything must be documented. A database must be kept. And that's how we intend to handle the health problems by identifying what they are and how to address them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sala. And then Mr. Fal, just hold on a moment. I would just like to remind the audience that we had mentioned a rule here that laughter or any sort of that will not be entertained while the arguments are ongoing. And then we just want to urge all of you to abide by that as we move on with this debate. Thank you so much. Mr. Fal, the initial question was how you would ensure a highly skilled and trained healthcare sector in the Gambia.
I had identified 3 different levels. You would have the specialists, you have the general practitioners, and the caregivers. We need to ensure adequate training for people of all categories. We should also engage the traditional practitioners. I know I had once contracted jaundice. While I was in university, I came to Gambia. I was not treated at the hospital. I was referred to a woman in Bakau who would give you a substance and it would immediately clear it. These are type of people who we can also embrace and bring them into the fold. But we must have standards in order to ensure that people are not being poisoned instead of being treated. We could identify a network of traditional practitioners whose treatments can be certified through medical means. They are incorporated into the system. We also have to put in massive resources to train people, especially at the lower level, the caregivers and the first responders. We need to ensure that the first responders they have all the equipment and the know-how of handling patients. A lot of stroke patients in this country die simply because the first responders don't know how to handle them. We have to invest massively in that. And then train as many people as possible. We now have a medical school. We should be able to do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fal. Mr. Sala, your reactions, please.
Well, he misinterpreted what I was saying when I said that we should abandon the word traditional medicine, because whatever cures is science. But they have not gone to university, they've not gone through training, so they are paramedical. They will provide a unit at the medical services that will be able to assess people who will apply, check what they have done, confirm, and then register them as paramedical. That's what we are saying, and that's what we are going to do. We are not asking anybody who can cure anybody to be excluded. We are saying let's create a database scientifically to know whether they are really curing people. Why we talk about
Mr. Sala, your time is up, please. Thank you. Over now to you, Mr. Fal, your reactions.
Well, I am glad that Mr. Sala embraces my ideas. There have to be standards. We cannot just allow every Tom, Dick, and Harry perambulating around the country willy-nilly, working as quacks or charlatans claiming to be doctors. We have a lot of them in this country. So we have to have standards for traditional practitioners, ensure that their services do work, and we have a system of registration to ensure that they are also monitored and supervised. If we do not do that, what happened in this country would happen again. People would come and pose as doctors who can cure certain ailments, and they don't know anything or what they are doing. In order to avoid that, we have to have good oversight and proper standards.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Fal. And the final question now, I would start with Mr. Sala. We've talked about your policies, toilet policies, what you would do to ensure that the country has a quality and accessible alongside affordable healthcare service delivery in the country. But one issue that is of a burning issue in the country currently is the issue of maternal mortality. We want to know, when voted into office, it's a priority, what your government would do to address this situation.
Women are carrying 2 burdens, burden of production and burden of reproduction. If you do not protect them, you are sacrificing the very future of a nation. That is going to be a priority. That's why in matter of government, we are saying we must even have in cabinet equal number of men and women so that women will take care of the major problems that this country is going to face. We are going to ensure that at the level of the village, the competence must be there, prenatal, to take care of that woman so that she will be freed from the farm before birth, childbirth. Freed from the farm, just like freed from offices 9 months after childbirth. We are saying there will be 3 months leave for those who are working in our sectors, both public and private, and 9 months leave after birth. So this is to protect women and mothers from the type of illness and from the type of death that they are suffering now. That is our policy. It's already in our manifesto. Read it. Very progressive. How we will accompany both father and mother will accompany the child who is the future of the nation so that the nation will protect that child and protects its future by ensuring that even after 9 months, the father will be given half work so that they'll be able to accompany their child, and 6 months leave to accompany their child to nursery school.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salah. Over now to Mr. Fall. A government under your watch, the priorities at stake are many, but the issue under the health sector regarding maternal death is of a burden. What would you do to address this?
I am glad that you have repeated the question, because this is about maternal mortality. And the problem, in order to address this, we have to know what the problem is. Where does the problem lie? The problem lies with lack of access to health, to the necessary health facility, timely access. The other problem is lack of facilities such as gloves and things that would help the caregivers to ensure safe delivery. The other problem is the lack of blood. The other problem is the care that is needed as immediately or after delivery. The other is the biggest problem is the infections that happen. All these things cause death. We have to invest heavily in order to be able to deal with these problems. In order to deal with the problem of access, increased supply of facilities and increased supply of ambulances could help reduce that problem. Now, many women die because they are carried on horsebacks or motorcycles, and they deliver on the way, and a lot of them die. If you have ambulances located strategically and they are abundant, that will solve the problem. Gloves. Why should anybody die because there are no gloves? I can't understand for the life of me why this government must allow that to happen. Blood. We must invest heavily in a blood bank and prepare for every woman who is about to deliver and ensure that all the things we need are there.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Fall. Mr. Salah, your reactions, please.
Well, we have emphasized that at the village level is when we will start to protect the woman and the child. And at the district level, the facilities are there to be able to deal with difficult birth. And at the regional level, facilities are there. So how to manage the birth at the village level is crucial. That's primary. All the knowledge must be there for that birth attendant to help that mother. And the knowledge will be given to that birth attendant in every village. Then the ambulance will be there, ready to move the person to the district hospital with immediacy to be able to deal with difficult childbirth. That is how we intend to lower child.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Salah. Over now to Mr. Fall.
I really wonder how a village birth attendant would be able to solve the problem of lack of blood for the woman who really needs one. I don't know how that village woman would be able to deal with the issues of infection. You see, what we need, these village birth attendants would be just mere stopgap measures. We are talking about solutions and not stopgap measures. Ambulances or health facilities should be available and accessible to pregnant women so that they would receive professional care as and when they need them. And these stopgap measures are not a solution. Thank you.
Mr. Fall, Mr. Salah, thank you so much. That brings an end to this fourth thematic area. We'll go for a quick break. It's 5 minutes. We'll be back here to continue the last thematic session. Thank you all.
If you want to receive monies from UK, Europe, USA, Canada, Switzerland, and the rest of the world, Supersonic's money transfer has got you covered. With the largest payout network in the Gambia, you can now receive your monies anywhere you are, from Kartong to Koina, with less hassle. Yes! You can receive monies from your family and friends in UK, Europe, USA, Canada, Switzerland, and the rest of the world with our safe, secure, fast, and convenient service that offers you the largest selection of payout locations in the Gambia. Supersonic's Money Transfer. We are currently in 34 African countries and counting, giving you quality money remittance services that are second to none. Visit the Google Play Store or the Apple Store today to download the Supersonics Money Transfer app and enjoy excellent money transfer services only with Supersonics.
jërëjëf Awa fu mu nekk nii nag Gambia dafa mel ni mu ngi xaw a xumba te tamit mu ngi xaw a dagan parce que ku nekk rek ak li mu gis te olof Njaay daf dee wax li mu saf ku ko macaa ko xam te jamono ji nag politique bi mu ngi xaw a doy waar tuuti su ko defee rek Bintu dinaa la bàyyi tuuti rek nga analyse ñu wax ñu li nga xam ne moo nekk di xew nga toonal ma li nga xam ne mooy caméra bi ñu gis background bi waaye su ma dem indi ñi nga xam ne mun na ñoo waxtaan ak gaay si yëfi debate yi tey bi Bintu fu mu nekk nii xaw naa doy waar bu baax a baax a baax a baax parce que politique bi jaxasoo na yaaxa na lu bari waaye defar na lu bari
Assalamu alaikum bandi mandinkol mbafa lale ko a bitilo lambe bendindo lalto damen to yalon ko mo bebe a pareri nyillungo kama lungo mu yalon ko walem presidential debate 2021 election o mun kananante aketa lungoti mu yalon ko gambia dingo bebe korontori nga kama dawo darandi a bari bitiro la a nata jele a aketa kuwo munti wala aketa ko six presidential candidate nga wala soto mun yalon ko wala nyanta kana ma be nyin debate ko bari bi nata jele a mofula damma wala nata na finti nang nyin dulato damin to yalon ko walen sa dawda kayra ba jawara conference wolto kananan kana ma be nyin debate la aketa kuti a mu yalon ko a mo jama disappoint nyin presidential candidate dol la karola kata keta lungoti le mun yalon ko itol bele nyantata sainte a ngajale a mo ka finti me yalon ko walen honorable halifa salati mo malo.
Thank you very much. It's been wonderful. Am na ñu bari ñoo xam ne ñu ngi laajte koo xam ne dafa bokk si Gambian Talents TV bu ko defee rek ñu waxtaan ak moom bro na nga def tur bi and noo gisee debate yi tey.
jërëjëf Fatou suma turu Omar Saibo Camara la like I said I think first of all dama wane comme debate bi dafa important generally and then gis ne ñaari presidential candidate ñu ñëw they are giving people the opportunity to be able to really understand their policy line and as well as their strategies on the thematic areas such as education, health, and agriculture. And of course, we could see at least they are defending what they have for us, what they want to do, how they want to do it. In debate, we call it the why and the how. First of all, they are telling us this is what they want to do for the health sector, this is what they want to do for the educational sector, and this is what they want to do for the agricultural sector. They also go further to tell us how they are going to do this. And they start with the problems. So generally, I'm not a debate bi moy yobu suñ democracy ci kanam. What we're gonna do is we get these chances for presidential candidates to come, leave the campaign trend where they mostly talk about personalities and personal attacks to policy and programs. We could see clearly both Ensa and Halifa are actually very are struggling to defend their policies convincingly, and this is the beauty of democracy, and this is what we want for the new Gambia. This is the new trend that have to continue. So I think the debate is fine, although I feel the candidates are taking excuses, especially if you come to the strategy. Of course, they are telling us the problems. Of course, they are telling us the solutions. But what are the strategies? They are lacking that. Like, it's not that easy to outline strategies. So they're just telling us this is the problem, this we want to do, but how they're going to do that is kind of lacking.
That's a big one. Ñu bari ñu ngi wax ne candidates yi am si Gambia ñu bari si gars yi maanaam amun Gambia at heart maanaam tamit ñeneen yi si gars yi den feel ne xëy na they are not educated comme Halifa ak ki nga xam ne moo nekk am Essa Faal because ñoo xaw a educated moo tax ñoom ñu ñëw feel nga ne loolu la.
déedéet du loolu comme ñi ñoo gëm seen bopp rek te gëm si luñ gëm ne moo yóbbu réew mi si kanam understand man moom loolu moo nekk suma gis-gis bi da ngaa gis ne ku xam ne jàngaam bi soriwut noonu mun naa ñëw fii mu wax very sound policies mu jox ñu luñ am pour Gambians of course luñ wax moom dégg la ne nekkul ku nekk bugg a président rek dafa bugg a réew mi si dégg bi.
oyaat si kanam parce que fu mu nekk debate bi start na ñu dem rek ñu indi li nga xam ne mooy debate bi jërëjëf moom saa su ne su ñëwee rek ñu xam ne.
Is visibly receding. We need to build or rebuild the economy. How are you build or rebuild in a resilient way, given how vulnerable our economy is, particularly to external?
Thank you. Forbes has listed Gambia as second to last country for worst to do business in the world. It means we beat bad, which is a country at war. It means to say that this is the most terrible place to do business. Are we surprised? direct investment is. Are we surprised that foreign direct investment is massively and heavily going into Senegal? Because we are doing things badly, I intend to change that and ensure that we have a business-friendly environment that would allow people to do business free massive corruption that impedes business in this country. We would ensure that look at our tax laws again and simplify them and ensure that there is greater quality taxes than is happening today. There are far too many loopholes and very lax enforcement. We would ensure that we digitize our financial system, insist on greater transparency, and that would reduce corruption. We would ensure fiscal discipline in this country. There is a lot of waste going on, and we would issue that to help us finance some of the projects that would help spur economic growth.
Mr. Salah, the same question to you, please, sir, in 90 seconds.
The economy has three elements. Agriculture contributes just about 90% of GDP, 20%. Service, 55%, the rest are the sectors. If you look at the agriculture, we can produce all the rice we need, spending 2 billion to 4 billion just to spending 29 million on potatoes, and we can produce the potatoes here. 108 million on onions here. In terms of the edible oil, we are actually importing 1.2 billion, which our granules can be transformed into edible oil. We can produce it here. To just cereals, we are investing 2 importation. We can produce it here. Products, 500, we can produce it here. So everything that we are importing, leading to in 17, when the Barrow government to 12 deficit, are things that we can produce. We are going to focus on that. Expand the productive base, and the importation, and then work towards exportation. Look at our ocean. We are capable of having fishing trailers to harness.
Your time is up, but I have a... Mr. Fall, I'm going to give you the same opportunity before the rebuttals, please. You were talking about import-export, and the trade deficits in the country are huge. You would want to elaborate on that? You were just on that.
Precisely so. Jawara left a trade deficit of 1.4 billion. Jammeh left a trade deficit of 11.9 billion. Now we are going to the 30 billion in trade deficit as this government. No effort is being made to expand our export. Export falls below 1 billion and moves just 1 point something billion, 3 point something billion if the export trade is facilitated. So we are exporting nothing. We are not a producer country. So we aim to eradicate that. That's why a cooperative bank and a sovereign wealth investment fund. We will get those people who...
Mr. Fall, quickly, 35 deficits, how do you intend to bridge the gap?
Clearly, this I have just outlined would help create a lot of savings for government. I've just mentioned 2 issues previously. We could save $5 billion by just ending the subsidies and ending the duty waivers, the unnecessary duty waivers. Office of the President, we spend 600, the approved for Office of the President for 2022, it's 677 million. I have raised this concern. What are they going to do with that money? We could just remove 600 million from that, and we would still be sending to Office of the President more than we are spending to sports. So that money should be available.
Your time is up, Mr. Fall. Thank you. Mr. Salah, your rebuttal, please, in 45 minutes.
Well, I don't think my colleagues
right.
is experienced in running a government. In running a government is a budget. You will see it written because we don't have the time to do it. You will see the Office of the President, personal emoluments, and all other breakdowns, fuel, etc., etc. Those are the things to look at to come up with a budget. Ask him which area of the budget he was going to cut, because that way maybe he should be in National Assembly to help him doing that, because we have that to cut down the budget. And I know the National Assembly member rigorous in cutting down the budget. So essentially, we must look at the issue of managing a state. And when people, I hate to use this word.
Mr. Saleh, time is up, I'm afraid. Mr. Fall, very quickly, 45 minutes.
Well, I want to remind Mr. Salah that I probably have more experience than him working for the government. Our CVs are there for everyone to examine. I have been parliamentary in this country with responsibility of writing the laws, including the appropriation bill for the country, and therefore I have a good grasp of how these things are done. But what I am trying to say is we can make a lot of things through this. There is a list. Maybe he's sensitive to the fact that he has not done scrutiny of the president's allocation, but way too much. $4 million to charter flights. Do we need that?
Your time is up. We are going to the next question, and we're going to start with you, Mr. Fall. And you have 90 seconds to answer this question. What steps are you going to take to ensure that the jobs are going to be inclusive of particularly in youth?
I have said on my launching, we would ensure gender balance in my cabinet. It would be women, that Mr. similar values. I have also said that there would be positions reserved for youth. This would be policy that would be retained by all aspects of. We would ensure we would ensure diversity, and we would also ensure regional and gender balance. This is the Gambian body. The requirements would be qualification, experience, and integrity of the person. Once those three boxes are, we would ensure that there would be equality across the board. So in a government that I lead, discrimination would end. In a I lead, regionalism would end. In a government that I lead, in fact, I have always said that for us, we choose knowledge over ignorance. We choose pragmatism over dogmatism and idealism. We choose experience over neophytes. And these are the principles that would govern our government, and it would run across the board from top to bottom.
Your time is up. Thank you. Mr. Salah, how would you ensure that women and are not left out in the jobs that are to be created?
Fundamentally, the constitutions give every Gambian the right to be the sovereign authority that determines government. And that authority, when entrusted, must be exercised to promote general welfare. So women must participate equally, equal representation. At the National Assembly, we will work, of course, we will have some legal instruments change in order to proportional representation and that equalization through proportional representation. At the level of the councils is the same. We will move into the public service and ensure that we obey that law of equalization by giving priority to women and ensuring really we provide the facilities necessary to provide some element of the special measures taking the women to an advantage that there is equality. We only do not do that, but we are moving to the girls and boys in the school being trained in the same way, nurtured in the same way, knowledge, skills, and values. That is where the change of mentality and mindset. And we will continue the level of...
Thank you, sir. Mr. Frown, Your rebuttal in 45 seconds, please, sir.
I want to believe that policies are very similar. There isn't much separating us, except that for us, we added other values. It's not just ensuring parity. It is ensuring that there is excellence in the system. It's ensuring that there is meritocracy in the system. Also, it's ensuring that there is pragmatism in the way we do things. It's not just about creating an equal society. That is socialist engineering. We're not talking about creating an equal society necessarily. We are talking about creating a just society. And there's a fundamental difference in the two.
Thank you, sir. Sir Salah,
well,
45 seconds, your rebuttal.
The Constitution already answers us for every president that whoever becomes a minister must be somebody with the professional qualification and experience. So I don't know where the difference lie, which he says is what they believe in and what we do not believe in. Everybody who must occupy a post must have the professional capacity and experience to be able to do so. So there is no negation of capacity. We are that moving to the level of giving special measures is not equality. It is ensuring that discrimination is reversed, and we are ready to reverse that discrimination.
Thank you so much. Just the next question has to do with that, in fact, but in a more elaborate way. And that's to you, we're starting with you, Mr. Salah. In 90 seconds, here is the question. What kind of governance and institutional reforms will you embark on to ensure sustainable and inclusive development?
We've seen that throughout the monarchical era, and colonialism is part of that, the state has been an, and it has not. We are going to nullify that. We are going to ensure that there is community security, and the community will mimic the state where community institutions, the village institutions, will have its security apparatus and will be recognized and for that. Then our police force will turn into a mobile force who will be called upon to come and assist these community services to be able to handle any crime. But we are also going to ensure that they are well trained and nurtured so that we are not going to allow any use of handcuffs in this country, no detention in horrible cells. We are going to look at cells and transform them because one is prisoned until proven guilty. So nobody is going to, we're going to give more emphasis to community service than actually being incarcerated. That is the time. In terms of the security, the military force, it is capable of having a productive base to have fishing vessels to harness our fish. We earn from it. It will maintain the navy and will also export in order to have sovereign national wealth. The army will be transformed. Workforce, a discipline where we build our wharfs.
I will follow up for you in mind, really. I mean, this system that you've just described ensure fiscal discipline, particularly in the public sector.
We are seeing regulatory authorities are going to be built, operated by human beings of integrity, and they proper monitoring to ensure that policies are implemented. There will be no compromise on that. You either deliver or you go. And there will be performance contract, and you will be rewarded for good service. We are also saying that the security apparatus will be transformed into a workforce so that our roads, the building of school structures, be trained for it. Now, when a person comes from...
Thank you, sir. Mr. Fall, over to you, if I may repeat the question. What kind of governance and institutional reforms will you embark on to ensure sustainable and inclusive economic development in the Gambia?
I just note before I answer that Mr. Salah had 90 minutes plus 45 minutes.
I will refer to you to give you additional 45 to answer the follow-up that yes.
All right, thank you very much. I just wanted clarification. Reforms are needed in this country, and start from the fundamental basis of our government, the Constitution. We all do know the Constitution is a dictatorial constitution. It is a constitution that has enabled massive abuse of power in this country. We've spent $110 million dealing to come up with a new constitutional order that had been jettisoned. We would breathe new life into that constitution, and that would be the beginning of the reforms that we're going to make. But not only that, we would ensure that there's great transparency in government. And that is why I have earlier said that we would have a modernized system.
You are now into your 45 seconds.
But I haven't been given any, I haven't said anything. The Salah had 90 seconds.
You have your 90 seconds now. 45. Can you correct that, please? On 45 first.
You've responded to, and now you have 90 seconds. The initial question. If you may want to repeat that, Seiko, once again.
Good. You may proceed, or you want me to ask the question?
Please proceed.
2 questions. 1, the governance and institutional reforms that you will embark on to ensure sustainable and inclusive economic development. And the follow-up that I had asked Mr. Salah was how would whatever system that you're going to create, how will it address the issue of fiscal, especially public sector?
Yes. Reforms we would make first would be the government architecture to ensure the constitution, a new constitution that we would also ensure civil service reform, because the civil service is the vehicle for the delivery of all government programs. If it also is not fit for purpose, you have serious problems as we're seeing today. The civil service would also need serious reform. We would establish a civil service training academy which would help train people to do civil service work in the day that is the way it is understood in the modern era. Mr. Salah did talk about performance contracts. I know a thing or two about that. I wrote the performance contracts in 1995 for all the public corporations. These things could come back, but performance contracts are useless if there are no enforcement mechanisms or oversight institutions. We would ensure that those things. But principally, we would ensure that there is e-government. E-government would remove all the secrecy in government, ensure transparency, and that would also help to reduce the corruption in the country. It's done. Government would begin to function properly. And if that is to that it's added, people who with integrity, people who are right, then government begins to look. When Gambia was prided as having the second best civil service in Africa.
Your time is up. Thank you so much, Mr. Fall. Mr. Salah, back to you with your rebuttal. You have 45 seconds, please, sir.
We have not been impressed by any government in this country since. What is now is reform, and we have said that we'll set up a commission of jurists to be able to look at the Constitution, confirming the sovereignty of the people as a key issue, a key drive. Putting our people together, unifying them, so that no sector of our country would be isolated. But fundamentally, our sea, our ocean, our land, our air, the Constitution must define it. The maritime zones must be well defined in the Constitution so that the Gambian people will know what they own. And government must protect that.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up. Well, for it's been brought to my notice you've not had your rebuttal.
Thank you. And thank you, madam, for...
You have 45 seconds, please.
Thank you. Boundaries are defined. It's 12 nautical miles. That's it. It is settled. We do not need any new laws or studies to tell us where our boundaries are. I agree, we need to be able to our borders, we need to be able to protect resources. But those are difficult to do. A government that I live with in that. We should invest also in factories that would produce fisheries resources that would be brought back to shore. But that is a different topic, very big. We would be happy to debate that issue.
Please. Thank you, Mr. Fall, and thank you, Mr. Salah. That does it for this session and for all the 5 areas that we've covered so far, from agriculture to infrastructure, to the economy, to education and health. Thank you. We're now going into the closing sessions, and I'll hand over to my co-moderator.
Gentlemen, now time to make your closing remark. And at this juncture, we will give you options. You can do your closing remarks in any language or languages you so wish to do so. And then start with you, Mr. Salah.
Thank you very much. This is not the type of debate I wanted to engage in. It's very combative. I expected something different. But then when personal assault comes, I will hit the person right in the face. And people must be careful. There is nothing in a republic that can turn a country into an ideology. So all those people who are saying those words are misleading you. I am a member of the ACP Parliamentary Assembly. I sit with European parliaments. They listen to me. People who are hoodwinking you that what they are saying reflects Europe. Europe will speak for itself. Africa will speak for itself. But not these people who are misleading you to believe that when a particular party is in power, it would not be because of politics. He was getting grants, pretending not. He was getting loans, pretending not to. How have been built by the European Union? So you must bear in mind that when you are running a government, now we should not talk about ideology because we have a constitution. And the honorable gentleman knows that. I was appointed as a minister when the coup took place and I rejected it. And when that happened, eventually they closed all chapters for political parties. I struggled against it. Whether briefcase lawyer or not, whatever, he was there among those people who were prosecuting me. That's why I'm saying that because he should know, not because of prosecution, but he should know how I value democracy, how I value the republic. I've fought for it, I've lived for it, and I will die for it. We'll build the most democratic country in this country. That's what we intend to do. People should love the republic, and they should love. We have been struggling to unify our people so that we can build a republic that will guarantee to all of us liberty, dignity, and prosperity, and to our generation yet onward.
So, Mr. Salah, no clapping, please. No clapping, please. We are violating a very important rule here. We can clap at the end of the session. There should be no clapping. There should be no form of... Please, let us abide by that. We are at the end of the session. You have 2 minutes to make a closing remark.
Thank you very much. I am really surprised that Mr. Salah appears very angry. I must apologize if I have said anything that riled you up. That was never my purpose. It was a debate where we exchanged ideas and I challenged some of your ideas. But let me tell you, Mr. Salah, I would not apologize for having views that are different from yours. Gone are those days when we are indoctrinated and caught in awe of some of the statements you have made. We have come of age, and we must free ourselves from that shackle of domination. We are now able to think for ourselves and look at things and not be awed by the language that is used, but rather we scrutinize the content of what is said. And I do not apologize for having capitalistic views, for I believe it is the system that would make the world run, and not archaic and dogmatic and old systems that did not even work where they were created, let alone in this country. So about ideology. I'm talking about practical ideas that would work in this country. And Mr. Salah, let me tell you, like you, many of us have also made sacrifices for this country. I have left a great deal to come and do this street commission that is being talked about everywhere in the world. And it was a personal sacrifice. So we are all in this together. And I respect you for who you are. I respect you for what you have done for this country. But you must respect for what they have in their country. You do not have a greater love.
Please, we will leave it there. No clapping, please. No clapping, please. We've not reached that session, please. Clapping. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We are not yet done to this edition of the 2021 presidential debate here at the Sada Dakar International. And we really appreciate and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy campaign schedules to join us here this evening to be part of this program. And at this juncture, we would like to acknowledge each other in whatsoever you would like to. Thank you. Thank you so much. And you may step forward for Mr. Fall. Step forward to take pictures, please. Thank you. We just be calm and seated and allow them to take their photo session. You may applaud them as they take their pictures well. All right, thank you. And candidates, you may stand there, please, because we have remarks that will be made here by Mr. Fall. You want to stay there, please? Mr. Salah, thank you so much. An official from the Inter-Party Committee now. All right, we will have that session momentarily. But for now, again, I will just reiterate my point. We thank you so much. We are supposed to have 3 candidates this evening, having the rest of the 3 candidates, but until this 5 p.m., another candidate opted out of the debate. But we had a fruitful session. Thank you so much. We wish you all the best to become the next President of the Republic of the Gambia, and we wish you a safe journey as you join your campaign team back in provincial Gambia to continue your campaign. Until then, it's bye from us, myself, Fatima Tassise, my co-moderator, Sekou Jamen. Thank you all for coming to grace this occasion, and we are wishing and hoping that we'll have peaceful elections in this December. Thank you so much. All right. Over to Bakari, the Executive Director of the Commission on Police, to make a statement. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Farmada and Sekou, and of course the debaters. We just have one more statement by the co-chair of the Inter-Party Committee. Honorable Nyasi. Thank you very much. I actually would not take much of your time, but I think you will all agree with me that history today by our 2 co-debaters in the person of the Right Honorable Halifa Sallah and the Right Honorable Halifa Ababakar Sallah and Esa Mbaifal. We appreciate your coming and we thank you for honoring this invitation. I want to say that history has been written by the 2 of you. Even whereas it was one individual coming to present what you have for this nation, I think Gambians should really appreciate what you have done. We want to thank you, and we will continue to promote your agenda, regardless of what will be the outcome of the December 4th presidential election. This is what the world have been anticipating. This is what Gambians have been anticipating for. And here you have written history, and you will leave an indelible ink in the political history of the Gambia, particularly trying to earn the democracy in which we are living today. On that note, on behalf of the National Democratic Institute, on behalf of UNDP, on behalf of the CPD, we appreciate the fact that we have members of the diplomatic and consular corps coming to grace this unique occasion. The media, we thank you because the world over is watching what is happening here. And my colleagues in the IPC, I think we said it and it has been manifested once again, that having my colleague, the co-chair, take us through the operation, Gambians and the world over are reaping the benefits of what it takes to have a seasoned individual in your midst to coach and mentor your operations. On that note, I want to say thank you very much and we appreciate your coming. I have a written speech, but honestly, I am overwhelmed with the manner in which this debate have been handled by the moderators. I want to thank you as well for the manner in which you have handled the whole affairs. You have actually shown impartiality in the manner in which you moderated the session. We thank you immensely. On that note, I really don't have much to say, but once again, gentlemen, I am one of the people who really appreciate the manner in which you handled this debate, and we want to sincerely thank you and appreciate all that you did. We wish you all the best, and we wish each and everyone who have come to grace this very important occasion all the best. On that note, I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Just before we conclude, finally, I just want to announce that one of our partners called DK Telecom have actually promised and then they have delivered. Each of the participant debaters will be given a free internet for 3 months for your campaign. Thank you, DK Telecom. And the other one also is for the Commission on Political Debates to facilitate our communication process. So thank you everyone for coming, and then we wish you all the best. And we want to take photo, a group.
Yes, ba léegi rek comme ni leen ko promisé suma collègue bu ñaawut bi dina toog fii ñu def sun analysis waxtaan dinaa seet how best I can bring you Halifa o ki nga xam ne moo nekk naka la Essa Faal.
waaw jaajëfal suma naataango bi comme ni nga xamante ne nu mu ko waxee tey jii bés bi dafa bokk ci bés yi nga xamante ne dafa marqué boppam si li nga xamante ne moom mooy taarixi réew mi. bi mooy ñaareeli yoon pour ñu am li nga xamante ne moom mooy presidential debate ci biir réew mi kon suma naataango bi dinaa ko bàyyi moom it mu nuyoo gannaaw boobu ñu gën a xuus yaatal waxtaan bi.
waaw ba léegi askan gi saxoo di seetaan Gambia Talents TV ñoo leen teewal fii si OIC li ko waral nag mooy ne debate bi nga xamante ne candidat yi war a dem ci élection bi ñoom lañ ko waroon a defal waaye nag ñu gis ne ñaar ñoo fi teew moo di Essa Faal ak ki nga xam ne moo di Halifa Sallah waaye macha allah débat bi neex na gis nañ si ñu waxtaanee si lu am solo waxtaanee nañ si wàllum wérgu yaram waxtaanee wàllum mbay bi ni mu mujjee moom gis nañ ne lu sedd si xol la lu neex si xol la ñoom ñaar daal di nañu lëngante boobu yow lan nga si gis lan nga ñu mën a wax si biir lëngante boobu.
waaw xam nga mbir mi luñ si war a mën a jàngee mooy ut sàkku pour nit ñi denkal la li nga xam ne moom mooy seen kaddu warut a jar coow warut a def leneen tey jii ñoom luñ doon waxtaan ci wàllu xam-xam lañ ko teg ak li nga xamante ne moom mooy luwa kon loolu pare ku nekk da ngay jaay sa marchandise loolu warut a tax ñu xuloo moo tax ñu gis buñ lëngantee loolu dafa war a jàngal ñi nga xamante ne ñoom ñooy supporter si ñu xam ne réew bennoo moo ko yóbbu kon loolu lu am solo la xam naa si kanam tuuti dinañ dalal keneen waaye ñu bàyyi la nga gën a faram-fàcce li nga xamante ne bëgg naa koo yokke ci wàlla boobu rek mooy ne waxtu dafa jot pour waa réew mi ak ñi nga xamante ne ñoom ñooy doomi réew mi nekk bitim réew ñu xam ne élection dafa war a nekk li nga xamante ne moom mooy si luwaa lañ ko teg waaye tamit dafa war a mën a nekk li nga xamante ne dañ koo tëral ci li nga xamante ne moom mooy xam-xam kon tey jii gis nañ ki nga xam ne moom mooy Essa Mbye Fall mu nekk ki nga xam ne moom mooy independent candidate ñu gis ki nga xamante ne moom mooy Halifa Sallah mu nekk li nga xamante ne moom mooy moom tamit njiit bi nga xam ne moom la PDOIS tànna kon nag dinañ dalal suñ naataango yi fii ci biir ñu jox ko rek kaddu.
jërëjëf ma ne ko kaddu bi rafet na lool su ko defee rek damaa def ni ma waxtaan ak ki nga xam ne nag mooy Touma Njie Touma ñu gis la fi mu nekk National Assembly member Touma nuyu naa.
fay naa leen yéen ngeen xam ne yéen a fi nekkal nit ñi di wax nit ñi kenn du mankele xam dara benn information bu génn si àddina bi rek yéen a ñu ko wax te ni mu gën a gaawee ak nu mu gën a leeree.
A lot of people are disappointed ñeneen yi ñu ngi wax ne Touma Njie su ko PPP jëloon mu nekk li nga xam ne mooy presidential candidate mu nekk si ñi nga xam ne ñoom leen taana ku ñu nekk président di nga doon ñëw nga wax tey noo gisutee Adama Barrow gisuloo Lawyer Darboe gisuloo ki nga xam ne mooy Mama Kandeh ak ñeneen ñi naka la loolu mel jegeñal tuuti rek Touma.
To be honest with you expect ma fi woon Adama Barrow xëj na tam xaw ma fi woon a expect am Mama Kandeh waaye Lawyer Darboe dafa miss a great opportunity because waroon naa ñëw àddina bi yëpp ñu ngi ko doon expect pour mu ñëw bëggoon naa koo gis trop parce que bëggoon naa dégga li moo wax waaye maa ngi jaajëfal ñaar ñu ñëw xam naa ne daal faale nañ ñu te yëg nañ ñu te bonte deserve nañ suñ karta yi ñoom ñaar xaw ma nag kañ lañ see saanil xamaguma da kan lay saanil waaye xam naa ne daal pour ñu oola nga ñëw nga wax a ñun wax ñu li tax ñu war laa saanil tamit lu gën la waaye tamit niñ ko waxee si angale biñ ko wax rek I hope ne ñu ngi ko doon translate si yeneen laaka yi parce que ñu duñu dégg angale rek ñoo am carte dañ war a fàttaliku ñi nga xam ne tam dégguñ angale waaye ñi ñëwul daal waroon nañoo ñëw wax ñu li tax parce que dëgg la ñu ngi too waaye lii tamit dafa very important lii àddina bi yëpp ñu ngi koo gis bon nag ñu ngi jaajëfal NDI di jaajëfal Bakary laala nag duma ko fi fàttee wax parce que kenn la si suma jànxa yi te am very proud ne at least gis naa result daal si liggéey bi maa def parce que laala xale bu jëflang la xale bu la suma raka la suma doom la te gis ngeen ko naka la jógee woon si debate bi ay fan du daan nelaw mu ne soo leen ko toon toppa di ngeen gis ay waxtu yim fi dee nekka bon nag ñi ñëw daal laa mun a wax ne ñoom ñoo ñaaka
jërëjëf su ko defee rek ma bàyyi gars yi wax naa leen ko man foog ma dem dugal si biir indil leen ñiti dinaa leen indilaat ñeneen
waaw ba léegi de comme ni ko Fatou waxee tey nag li ñu fi dajale dafa nekk lu am solo loo xamante ne moom si taarixu Gambie kenn du ko fàtte ndax ñi nga xamante ne ñoom lañ nominé pour ñu dem si élection 2021 bi December 4 ñoom ñoo fi waroon a daje tey nag pour amal li nga xam ne moo di waxtaan waaye nag si biir loolu ñaar lañ jot a gis ki nga xam ne moo di Insa Fall lañ gis ak Khalifa Sall amal nañ nag waxtaan yu am solo macha allah wante nag ñeneen ñi gisuñu leen nag yeneen candidat yi gisuñu ki nga xam ne moo di président Adama Barrow jotuñu ko fee gis kii di Abdoulaye Diallo jotuñu ko gis ki nga xamante ne tam moo di Lawyer Darboe jotuñu ko fee gis kii di Mama Kandeh jotuñu ko gis loolu yeneen candidat yi nga xam ne jotuñu leen a gis yow loolu ban jàngat nga ci am.
waaw xam naa ne dinaa ko xaaj si li nga xamante ne moom mooy ñaari pàcca xaaj bu njëkk bi ci waxtu bi nga xamante ne moom mooy waxtu buñ def debate bi parce que soo xoolee campagne bi ñetti semaine la te si ñetti semaines yi nii lu ëpp si biir réew mi ñoom seen campagne suñ ko dee door si dex bi la ñuy dooree lu mel ni li nga xamante ne moom mooy GDC jamono bii nii jiite ko di ki nga xam ne moom mooy Mama Kandeh mu ngi si dex bi li nga xamante ne moo tax ñoom it yaakaar naa ne looloo tax gisuñ leen fi moo tax ma ne benn xaaj waaye tamit ñi nga xamante ne ñoom mooy MPP gisuñ leen ñi nga xam ne ñooy UDP gisuñ leen waaye tamit NUP tamit di National Unity Party ñoom it gisuñ leen loolu benn xaaj la waaye ñaareeli xaaj bi tamit bokk na ci li nga xam ne man dama ko yàgg a gestu mooy ne débat di debate bokkut li nga xamante ne wala bëriwut si li nga xam ne moom mooy luñ aadawoo si suñ politiciens yi ba tax na lu ëppa ku mel ni Halifa Sallah nga dee gis last presidential election Halifa lañ gisoon mu ñëw debate on behalf of the coalition ñu gisoon ki nga xam ne moom mooy Yankuba Koli ñëw debate on behalf of APRC kon lii suñ koy am luñ koy rafetlu la te waxtu dafa jot pour ñu def ko mu nekk li nga xamante ne moom mooy luwaa man si suma jàngat pour ëllëg ak si biir rek ñi nga xamante ne ñoom ñooy candidates yi mu leer leen ne balaa ngaa taxaw pour sàkku li nga xam ne moom mooy position pour nekk candidate foog rek nga bokk ci li nga xam ne moom mooy debate comme réewi Amérique nuñ ko boole si seen téere bi waxtu dafa jot pour ñu def loolu noonu man loolu suma jàngat waaye nag nu ma wax si politique suma sëriñ si politique mu ngi taxaw kon nag dinañ ko dalal mu toog moom comme ni ma ko dee waxee képp ki nga xamante ne da ngaa toog fii ni di jàngat di jéem a taataan si politique si moom la ñuy rootee kon fuñ ko jëlee du jeex teew na ak man foog ma jébal ko léengay suma sëriñ ñu bàyyi la rek nga nuyoo fii ci li nga xamante ne moom mooy suma sista bu baax bi ni ma ko dee waxee iñaanut naka nga jàngatee li nga xam ne moom mooy debate bi ak yan lañ si mun a jàngee mu nekk li nga xamante ne moom mooy milestone suñ mun a put into implementation pour mu nekk loi.
waaw jërëjëf foog naa ne debate bi ñun ñëpp ñu fi teewoon kontaan nañ si parce que at the end of the day lii la nit yi expect and su fekkee ne ñu ngi nekk in a democracy ñu bëri lii lañ séntu and I think ne appreciate naa candidates yoo xam ne génn nañ parce que am nañ time boo xam ne nit yi finally toog nañ pour déglu leen clearly as to what their policies are ak foog naa ne loolu lu important la lu ñoo def rek mooy ñuy gën a ñaax di gën a gërëm commission on political debates because ñoom ñoo organise di I mean isi nañu fi ñun ñëpp and I think at the end of the day nit yi jàngee nañ si lu bëri tey ku nekk mun naa clearly wane ne maybe there are differences within candidates mun naa tànn lan la bugga and then at the end of the day mun naa demee noonu so lii moo nekk feature of politics in Gambia ñun nii lañ ko gisee and I think ne it should be encouraged definitely.
ndax mun ngaa jàngat comme ñi nga xamante ne ñeneen ñi nuñ ko jàngatee ne amaana li nga xam ne moom mooy time buñ ko def ñu bëri ci li nga xam ne moom mooy candidate yi ñu ngi si dex bi ndax loolu war naa mun a nekk nganta ne subsequent times yeneen i yoon ñu xool time bi nga xamante ne lu ëpp wala ñu bëri si candidate yi dinañ nekk fi mu bokk si li nga xam ne moom mooy final week campagne bi nga xam ne lu ëpp si candidate yi dinañ nekk si Greater Banjul bi wala si li nga xam ne moom mooy combo bi.
I mean yéen ay waxi excuse la because yéen ay lii buñ ko commencé nekkul de tey lañ ew rek ne kaa la ñu di debate lii it has been plan gars yi foog naa ne bind nañ ku nekk I mean ku bëggut a participate loo rek la na wax bi am foofu noonu waaye at the end of the day I mean this was a debate and then nit yi debate nañ so for me I mean ku bëgg a debate na debate ku bëggut a debate mu toog and it's simple as that yéen ay buñ si isi wax yoo xam ne nii dut pour mu nekk fa man I think yooyu waste time la rek.
finally xam naa balaa ñu laa bàyyi sa jàngat ndax tey tamit askani Gambia waroon nañoo mun a yeewu bi nga xamante ne ku mun a ñëw jàkkaarloo ak li nga xamante ne moom mooy askan bi nit ñi di la laajte ngay tontu mu nekk li nga xamante ne moom mooy si foomi debate ak say morom ngeen a jongante ci wàllu xam-xam ak luwaa ndax waxtu jotu tamit pour Gambien si commencé di tànn based on policy and principles.
I mean gis nga politics different strategy moo nekk am na ñoo xam ne debate itteel na leen am nañ opportunity pour dégg am na ñeneen ñoo xam ne ñu ne ñoom si biir la gaay di dugal loolu ku nekk ak sa stratégie la waaye at the end of the day lu important moo nekk ne na nit yi di bàyyi seen xel di déglu politicians lan la ñoo wax because lu ñoo wax right now plan boo xam ne ñoom suñ toogee loolu lañ war a bugg a defal dëkk bi yéena xëj na sax su fekkee ne ñoo xam ne I mean ñu ngay debate ñu ngay engage wi nuñ idea yu ñoo wax ne am na idea loo xam ne baax na si réew mi ku nekk koo xam ne keneen la sax war na koo jël mu seen ne su toogee ne idea bi day aw moo ko woon kii moo ko isi woon waaye lii baax na si réew mi nañ leen ko jël ñu seen naka lañ koo safara at the end of the day lan moo important moo nekk ñu teg Gambia first ku nekk ni nga war a doxalee lu gën a yomba loo xam ne moo gën a baax si réew mi ñu commencé di ko sàmm di ko def and man lu ma gisee debate bi moo nekk ne debate I mean 2026 di nga gis ne ñu bëri dinañ participer si debate because boobu dina gis ne nit yi dinañ gën a commencé di demand ne façon lii day baax na lii rafet na si dëkka xoolal bu gaay pare rek lu gaay def joxe wante loxo dem ñëpp kontaan ñëpp tàccu at the end of the day you know lii lañ si séntu Gambian si ak ñun ñëpp lii lañ si séntu and then this is what we expected and so we got it so at the end of the day léegi nit yi la des pour ñu tànn kan lañ feel ne you know déglu nañ ko bu baax and su kooku toogee ñu ensure ne ñu follow ko ne mu ngi deliver lu mu leen wax su fekkee ne deliver wut next election ngeen génnee ko it's as simple as that.
Seyd Mati Jaw la ni ma ko waxee kuy jàngat fii nii ci politics moom ngay taataane man suma maas yi saa yu nekk dama ko dee déglu ñu jaajëfal la ci waxtu rek bi nga xamante ne jël nga ko pour waxtaan ak li nga xamante ne moom mooy Got Talent TV.
waaw jërë ngeen jëf yéen tamit maa ngi leen a gërëm parce que media bi yéen seen role is very important yéen a ñun ñoo fi nekk waaye àdduna bi yëpp daanaka ñu ngi ñoo seetaan te loolu yéen a tax te ñu ngi leen see gërëm ci leen seen liggéey bu baax di leen a gërëm di leen a sant jërë ngeen jëf.
Gambia Talent TV la suma naataango dinañ ko dalal moom it mu toog ki nga xamante ne moom mooy Samba mu ngi jéem a asiwaat keneen waaw ñu bàyyi ko moom it mu ñëw toog waaye lim nekk di wax am na solo trop parce que waxtu dafa jot ñu commencé di gestu yooyu noonu dinañ dalal ki nga xamante ne moom suñ honorable la yàlla def na moom it dafa bokk ci li nga xamante ne moom mooy interparty committee bi mu dekk ci li nga xamante ne moom mooy co-chair ak ki nga xamante ne moom mooy kenn kuñ gis mu doon debate gis nañ moom it kaddu yi nga xamante ne bu nga ko jëlee lu mu ci wax mu nekk ak kaddu yoo ñu rafetlu honorable amul ñaasi nekkut gan si biir réew mi waaye nekkut gan ci bi li nga xam ne moom mooy bunti politique bi kon moom it nañ ko dalal xam naa ne dinaa jël léegi delloo ko ki nga xamante ne moom mooy suma sista bu ñaawol bi moom it bi ma jox opportunité bi ma war a toog di liggéey ak moom kontaan naa si yow jërëjëf ma delloo la.
waaw yow doo dem yow fii laa laa bàyyi xam naa ne ku xam politique nga soo gisee tey ñu teg la fii den xam sa liggéey bu rafet ngay def wax dëgg neex yàlla wax naa ko at Gambian Talents TV we are at no competition with nobody su nit ki mu ne liggéey rek ñu jox ko moom mooy borom star su ko defee rek amut ma laajte la rek noo gisa bu li nga xam ne mooy debate bu go on.
jërëjëf Fatou liñ gis daal fees na bët wax dëgg neex yàlla liñ gis fees na bët parce que laajte am nañ solo ba pare tontu yi tamit am nañ maanaa so moo tax ma ne luñ gis daal fees na bët.
amut foog loo it's disappointing out of 6 candidates only 2 mu ñëw you know loolu noo ko gisee.
waaw xam nga loo gis rek am na fu mu tàmbali because xamu leen li xew waaye am na loo xam ne doxal nañ ko si ron loolu tax soo leen bàyyee xel buñ ma njëkkee oo pour ma joxe suma speech nit ñi gisuñ ma dégguñ ma it was going to be worse than this waaye si kattani yàlla yàlla dimbali nañu ba nga
ma junja man dama bëgg mu direct am na ñoo xam ne li ngay wax dégguñ ko gars yi dama bëgg mu leer mi ne am na lu bari lu xew loo xam ne yéen xamu leen ko nañu demal direct bëgguma lim de
non non xam nga comme niñ ko dee comme ni ko moo gi dee waxee rek xam lépp ayut waaye wax lépp moo aay so am na loo xam ne mënatuñ koo wax parce que lii achievement la jëm kanam la si suñ politique jëm kanam la si suñ démocratie so su emoon fii sax sant nañ yàlla gërëm nañ yàlla si li nga xam ne moo fi xew tey dégg nga fi ma waxee ma ne boo ko seetluwee réew yi nga xam ne foofu la commencé nii la am na réew yoo xam ne sax ñu ngi laa wax ne biñ ko commencé kenn rek moo ñëw janoo ak askan bi mu wax leen si manifesto bi ñu laaj ko muy tontu mu paree mu dem am na réew yoo xam ne ñu njëkkoon a ñëw nanguwuñ biñ demee jël réew ñu nekk président ñu invite leen ñu dem take part si debate bi so óor na ma ne ni mu tàmbali nii ren Gambia comme the next presidential election mboolem koo xam ne mu ngi sàkku nit ñi leen ko jox seen karta pour mu ilif leen mu jiite leen dina yàkkamti pour ñëw si façon plateforme bii nii pour discours quoi because lii fu mu ne nii dafa siw si aduna bi yëpp ñu ngi koo seetaan ne Gambia tamit tey def nañ history waaye history bi nag rawatina ñaar ñi nga xam ne ñoom ñoo ñëw janoo ak askan bi ba pare jaay leen seen manifesto bi jël waxtu di tontu laajte yi nga xam ne moom lañ laaj so nañ dox dinañ fa aaga waaw loo gis daal si benn lay tàmbali ba ba ngaa aaga fi nga xam ne foofu nga bëgg a dem.
am na ñoo xam ne bro dama bàyyi ma juum am na ñoo xam ne ñu ne because Halifa dafa jàng ak ki nga xam ne moo nekk Essa Faal moo tax ñoom ñaar ñu ñëw ñeneen ñi nag moom xamun lu bari loolu la gaay wax ma bëgg a xam rek lan mooy si sa gis.
waaw xam nga ñun ma dellu gannaaw tuuti gis nga this presidential debate the interparty committee ñun ñoo ko initiate waaye ma wax la dëgg buñ ko initiate Halifa Sallah bokkutoon si because NDI the National Democratic Institute dañ ñëw ñu rafetlu liggéey bi nga xam ne moom lañ nekk di def at the interparty committee gars yi reach out ñu ñëw ñu am ak ñoom waxtaan bu ñu amee waxtaan ak ñoom ba pare gars yi am forme bu ñu jox ñu seet forme bi fiil ko ñu dem ak ñoom noonu lañ nekkee back and forth ba ñu développe lu ñu wax memorandum of cooperation suñ diggante gannaaw bu ñu ko développé so gars yi laaj ñu pour ñu develop work plan for this 2021 dem ba 2022 election cycle bi ba 2023 fu moo jeexee so c'est suñu work plan bi lii bokk na si presidential debate initially sax dañ ko bëggoon pour mu nekk ñaar waaye after bu IEC génnee itinéraire bi ñu gis ne suñ ne dañoo def ñaari debate dafa affect gaay seen campagne bi moo tax ñu indi ko to benn so lii moo jur li nga xam ne moom lañ gis nii tey waaye nit ñi fuñ koo aagale ñun buñ jógee pour debate bi am ñun jóguñu woon pour wane kan moo jàng ak kan moo jàngut liñ bigga mooy ñi nga xam ne ñooy sàkku réew mi ku nekk lii sa programme soo jëlee réew mi li nga foog ne loolu ngaa def pour réew mi mun a dem kanam yokkute mun a am jaama mun a am dal mun a am nit ñi seen koom-koom yokku dañ nga ñëw nga wone loolu waaye jàng ak ñaaka jàng taxutoon ñu jóg si lii so pour ma leeral foofu waaye nag nit ñi tamit ku nekk ak sa xelaat la ak sa gis-gis loolu kenn du ko daaxa dafa des ne nit ki nu mu ko gisee ak nu mu ko xelaatee ak moom nu mu ko analyser su ko waxee tamit ba tey amul dara luñ see daaxalu waaye pour wax leen ne lii moo taxoon ñun ñu jóg xam nga moo tax ma bëgg a leeral ne buñ ko plan di indi activités yi Halifa Sallah bokku ci woon.
waaw dinaa la bàyyee suma broda bu ñaawut boobu waaye before may dem sax dinaa bëgg rek mu leeralal ñu because ñu bari ñu ngi doon wane NPP suñ fi nekkoon muy Adama Barrow su fi nekkoon ak ki nga xam ne mooy Lawyer Darboe debate bi du doon end peacefully gis naa ko muy ree cameraman wan ñu loolu.
non waa xam nga comme ni ma ko waxee rek nit ñi ko xelaatee noonu waaye man óor na ma ne ñaar ñooñu suñ ñëwoon tamit xuloo du am ak debate bi dafa end peacefully because am na ay sarta yoo xam ne ñoom ñaar ñëpp ku nekk sign na ko so óor na ma ne dinañ bàyyi xel ñu sàmm li nga xam ne ñoom si seen boppa loolu lañ sign ba pare maa ngi wax li kaw su gis nga suñ liggéey bi IPC liggéey bi àgg na foo xam ne gis nga ni maa waxee yow nii tey Facebook ñi moom Facebook ñu ngi si réew mi démb lañ ñëw dañ ñëw dara indiwul leen fi ñu ne dañ bëgg a liggéey ak IPC bi direct so ma amoon ak ñoom virtual meeting discuss ak ñoom dëgg la Halifa mu ngi busy si politics bi waaye dama ko dee call di ko update xam nga bi ma ko waxee loolu sax force ma wax ko si National Assembly bi la woon mu ne ma waaw loolu moom dañ ci war a taxaw ñaari tànka ba gis ne am na so ma continuer di waxtaan ak gars yi am ak ñoom virtual meeting ba léegi finally gars yi confirm ni ma waxee yow gars yi action nañ si réew mi démba on the 23rd dinañ am ak ñoom meeting pour toog ñu develop a framework naka la IPC di liggéeyee ak Facebook so lii yëpp ay yokkute la yoo xam ne mu ngi xew waaye nit ñi nag ñu bari xamuñ ko soo am na ñoo xam ne dañ lay toog di laajte waa IPC ñoom lan lañ fi nekkee lan la ñoo def ñu ngi def lu bari loo xam ne media house yi nag maa ngi leen a gërëm di ko yéen a ngi publish suñu liggéey bi lu bëree bari waaye am na yeneen yoo xam ne su tàmbalee duñ mën a indi media bi fekk amuñ taxawaay bu dëgër comme que léegi confirm ne on the 23rd bi nga am ak ñoom meeting te gars yi excellent balaa bési meeting bi dinañ xam ndax media bi dinañ ko cover wala duñ ko cover so li si mënta rek media bi dinañ xam dinañ si jëlee dara.
xam naa ne waxtaan bi am na solo waaye da nga junja fi nga xamante ne moom mooy askan bi loolu dañ ko yaagaa joytu mooy li nga xamante ne moom mooy jamono social media lañ nekka yëpp nekkul li nga xamante ne moom mooy conventional media bi te benn ci bunta bi nga xamante ne tuna nga ko mooy bunti Facebook dafa am wala bu bëri wala bu yaatu ci li nga xamante ne moom mooy social media ndax bokk na ci seen xelaat si li nga xamante ne askan bi xëj na ñu yéen déggu leen ko waaye askan bi ñu ngi koo joytu ñun ñu nekk si